You've been told the same story since you were young, that you can't understand women because you're not one. It sounds reasonable, almost comforting. It gives you an excuse when relationships fail, when attraction fades, when confusion builds. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That story is a lie. Understanding women doesn't require living inside their emotions. It doesn't demand empathy at every turn or perfect alignment with their feelings. The secret isn't about imagining what she feels. It's about watching what she does. Observation, not immersion, gives you clarity. Because women, like men, can say one thing and do another. Their words may be shaped by culture, by politeness, by what they wish were true. Their feelings may shift from one moment to the next, but their actions tell the real story. What they reward, who they pursue, what they choose in private when no one is looking, those choices never lie. Once you shift your attention from what women say to what women do, you unlock a perspective most men never develop. You stop chasing impossible contradictions and start recognizing patterns. The frustration of walking on eggshells begins to fade, replaced by a sharper understanding of what truly drives attraction, commitment, and desire. Think about how this principle applies everywhere else in life. A doctor doesn't need to feel cancer to treat it. A meteorologist doesn't need to be struck by lightning to predict storms. An economist doesn't need to live in poverty to study markets. They observe, they analyze, they learn from patterns, not from personal experience. Why would women be different? Why would you need to feel exactly what she feels in order to understand her? That logic collapses under the weight of every other discipline. Observation always outperforms immersion. The outside eye sees what the inside cannot. Even women themselves often misunderstand their own motivations. That's not an insult, it's a reality of human psychology. The eye cannot see itself. The mind struggles to observe its own operations. When asked what they want in a partner, many women give answers that sound admirable. Kindness, communication, stability. These answers may even be honest. But then you watch their choices. You see who they date, who they sleep with, who they stay loyal to. And those choices tell a very different story. This isn't hypocrisy. It's biology. What women consciously believe and what their unconscious programming drives them to pursue are not the same. Consciously, she may want comfort. Unconsciously, she craves excitement. Consciously, she may value safety. Consciously, she tests whether you can withstand chaos. Consciously, she says she wants emotional availability. Unconsciously, she loses interest when you provide it too freely. Her feelings are real. Her words are genuine in the moment. But behavior reveals the deeper truth. Imagine a friend who insists he wants to invest in your business idea. He praises your vision, tells you how much he believes in you, but when it comes time to put down money, he spends on a new television instead. Do you trust his words or his actions? His emotions may be sincere. His intentions may be good. But his behavior shows you his true priorities. Comfort over risk. Entertainment over investment. Women operate the same way. They may believe they want kindness, patience, or constant emotional connection, but their behavior reveals a preference for men who challenge them, set boundaries, who resist being controlled by moods or requests. This is the trap most men fall into. They listen to words and ignore actions. She says she wants communication, so they share more of their feelings only to watch her interest fade. She says she values respect, so they treat her better only to discover she's drawn to men who treat her worse. She says she wants security, so they make her the center of their life, only to find she's restless, bored, and looking elsewhere. These contradictions drive men insane. But the mistake isn't in her behavior, it's in how you interpret it. You assume her words equal truth. In reality, her actions reveal truth, while her words reveal preference, culture, or momentary feelings. This is why empathy, while useful in some contexts, cannot be the foundation of understanding women. If you immerse yourself in her emotions, you drown in contradictions. One day she feels she wants stability. The next day she feels bored by stability. Both feelings are real. But if you build your strategy on feelings, you'll always be chasing smoke. The only way to stay grounded is to treat behavior as the compass. Watch who she responds to. Observe how she reacts under stress. Notice what she rewards with attention, sex, loyalty. That's where truth lives, Not in her words, not in her tears, not in her late-night confessions. Men who understand this stop being confused. They stop over-investing in emotional management. They stop believing that more empathy, more accommodation, more giving will create more attraction. They recognize that attraction isn't built on comfort, but on challenge. Respect isn't built on compliance, but on boundaries. Loyalty isn't built on promises, but on patterns. When you step into this mindset, you stop playing defense. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop being the man who constantly adjusts to feelings that shift like the weather. Instead, you become the man who sees the patterns clearly, who doesn't flinch when words contradict actions, who acts based on evidence rather than illusions. And that shift changes everything. You've probably seen this contradiction play out over and over. A woman insists she wants a man who listens, who shares his feelings, who makes her feel safe. But when she meets a man who does exactly that, she's polite, appreciative, and uninterested. Then she meets another man less attentive, more distant, even careless, and she's hooked. Suddenly she's chasing, wondering, investing. At first, you tell yourself it's just bad luck, or that she hasn't matured yet. But then you notice the pattern repeating across women of different backgrounds, different ages, even different cultures. The contradiction is universal. Words say one thing, behavior says another. This is where most men collapse. They think the solution is to double down. If she says she wants more communication, they talk more. If she says she wants more respect, they treat her even better. If she says she needs more reassurance, they give it constantly. Attraction drains out of the relationship faster, and the more you give in response to her words, the less she respects you. The more you accommodate, the less she desires you. The more you prioritize her feelings above all else, the more she loses interest. It feels cruel. It feels unfair. But it's not about cruelty, it's about programming. Her biology isn't designed to reward comfort. It's designed to test strength, to push against you, to see whether you hold your ground, to measure whether you can resist her emotional pressure. That's why women often feel safer when you ignore their emotional storms and stick to your own course. It doesn't mean you're cold. It means you demonstrate stability, that you don't bend every time the wind shifts. Think of it like a stress test. Engineers don't build a bridge and hope it works. They test it with weight, wind, and pressure. They need to know it holds. Women do the same. They create emotional storms not because they want chaos, but because they need to know you don't collapse under it. When you accommodate every request, when you fold at the first sign of tension, you fail the test. You prove you can be controlled. And once you can be controlled, respect dies. Without respect, attraction doesn't just weaken, it disappears. This explains why so many nice guys are rejected. They believe kindness and compliance will create love. But love without respect is impossible. Attraction without boundaries is unsustainable. Women instinctively know this, even if they can't explain it. That's why her feelings and her behavior often contradict each other. Consciously, she wants safety. Unconsciously, she needs to know you won't trade your self-respect for her comfort. She may say she values stability, but if your stability comes from constant agreement, she won't feel secure. She may say she wants sensitivity, but if your sensitivity makes you needy, she'll pull away. Her words are not lies. They're her conscious desires. But attraction lives in her unconscious, and that part of her only responds to strength. This is why observation is your greatest weapon. If you listen to words, you'll spend your life confused. If you watch actions, the confusion ends. Look at who she chases, not who she claims to admire. Watch who she stays with, not who she praises. Pay attention to what she rewards, not what she requests. You'll notice the same principles again and again. Scarcity creates value. Boundaries create respect. Independence creates attraction. Men who hold their frame draw women in. Men who surrender it drive women away. The trap is believing that her happiness equals your success. It doesn't. Happiness fluctuates with moods, hormones, and circumstances. Respect is steady. Attraction is instinctive. If you sacrifice respect to protect temporary happiness, you lose both. But if you protect respect, happiness has a chance to grow. Think of the countless men who tried to fix their relationships by giving more. more dates, more gifts, more effort. All they did was accelerate the loss of attraction. Then think of the men who refused to chase, who stood firm, who prioritized their path and values over her shifting emotions. Those men are rarely abandoned, because deep down women crave what they cannot control. And here's the paradox that confuses so many men. She will test you endlessly, but she doesn't want you to fail. The tests are not attacks. They're evaluations. She wants to know you're strong enough to hold your position. She wants to feel you won't collapse when life brings real pressure. If you crumble at her moods, how will you lead when the world falls apart? From her perspective, she needs to know, even if she can't articulate it. Even if her conscious mind frames it as, I just want better communication, or I just want more attention. Her biology isn't asking for those things. It's asking, can you stay centered when I'm not? Can you stand firm when I push against you? Can you keep leading when I resist? When you finally see it that way, the confusion ends. Her contradictions make sense. Her words stop being riddles. You stop feeling betrayed. When her actions don't match her promises, you understand she isn't lying. She's divided. Conscious desire versus unconscious programming. Comfort versus survival. Feelings versus biology. Your job is not to reconcile the contradiction. Your job is to read the patterns and respond with strength. Modern culture tells you the opposite. It says empathy is the key, that you must constantly tune in to her feelings, that communication will solve everything. But notice something. Men who follow that advice rarely succeed. The ones who talk endlessly about emotions, who prioritize comfort over boundaries, who treat women like porcelain, they're not the men women chase. They're the men women leave. Why? Because women themselves often don't understand what drives their behavior. They give advice based on what they feel rather than what they do. They believe communication will fix attraction because communication fixes friendship. They believe kindness should lead to love because kindness leads to approval. But attraction is not approval. Desire is not friendship. Respect is not built on words. It's built on action. That's why most dating advice is a trap. Just be yourself. Treat her like a princess. Talk about your feelings. All of it sounds good. All of it matches what women say, and all of it backfires when put into practice. The cruel irony is that women give advice that sabotages the very men who take it most seriously. Observation frees you from this cycle. Instead of asking, what does she say she wants? You ask, what does she actually choose? Instead of adjusting to her moods, you analyze her patterns. Instead of drowning in her emotions, you anchor yourself in her actions. This requires detachment. Not coldness, not cruelty, but distance from the chaos of her feelings. You stop letting temporary storms control permanent decisions. You stop making choices to calm her mood in the moment and start making choices that protect respect long term. The difference is massive. When she tests your boundaries, you don't fold to keep her happy, you hold, because respect matters more than temporary peace. When she complains about your decisions, you don't backtrack, you stay the course, because consistency matters more than approval. When she tries to manipulate through guilt or pressure, you don't argue and force calmly, because your standards are not negotiable. This doesn't make you heartless, it makes you trustworthy. Because women, even if they deny it, respect men who don't crumble under pressure. They admire men who prioritize long-term strength over short-term comfort. They desire men who can't be manipulated by emotions, because those men feel safe in ways words can't explain. Observation also protects you from the illusions of modern life. Social media is full of women claiming to want one thing while rewarding another. You'll see posts about valuing respect and kindness, while those same women are obsessively commenting on men who project confidence and dominance. You'll hear endless talk about equality while their behavior reveals competition, jealousy, and status seeking. If you believe the words, you'll remain lost. If you observe the actions, you'll understand. And once you understand, the world changes. You no longer feel blindsided when she pulls away after you gave her more attention. You no longer feel betrayed when she loses interest after you opened up your feelings. You no longer feel broken when she chooses drama over stability. You realize these outcomes were written into her programming long before you arrived. The eye cannot see itself. The mind cannot fully observe its own drives. That's why women often misreport what they want. It's not dishonesty, it's limitation. They feel what they feel, but they can't see the patterns behind those feelings. That's your role. To step outside, to observe, to understand. This shift is not easy. It destroys comforting illusions. It forces you to abandon the romantic idea that love is built on endless empathy and accommodation. It asks you to prioritize truth over feelings, evidence over words, respect over approval. But once you make that shift, you gain clarity most men never reach. You see attraction for what it is, a biological response, not a conscious choice. See drama for what it is, a stress test, not sabotage. You see contradictions for what they are, evidence of dual systems conscious desire, and unconscious programming fighting for control. And with that clarity, you finally stop being reactive. You stop chasing, apologizing, over-explaining. You stop trying to make women happy at all costs. Instead, you create conditions where respect and attraction grow naturally because you hold boundaries, because you stay steady, because you lead. This is the real path to understanding women. Not by sharing every feeling, not by treating emotions as facts, not by obeying every request, but by watching actions, recognizing patterns, and acting from strength. So the next time you're confused by what she says, don't panic. Step back, observe. Ask yourself, what does her behavior reveal that her words conceal? What does her pattern show that her emotions disguise? That answer is the truth. The truth is all you need. And if this perspective helps you cut through the noise, remember it's only the beginning. There's so much more to uncover about psychology, attraction, and the hidden forces that shape relationships. Subscribe now and keep exploring with me. Once you stop listening to illusions and start observing reality, you'll never be confused again.